My home environment was extremely toxic. A lot of mental unwellness, spiritual unwellness, verbal abuse, and just declaring, having those words declared over you that you are a this and you are a that, and then taking that to heart and saying, well, screw you. If that's, as a kid, that's what I said. I'm like, if that's who you say I am, that's what I will be. And that vow, wrapped in like hatred and bitterness, was like a bomb, like that when I left the house, I just kind of dove into disaster, basically.
So, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited to hear your story. So I'm just going to hand over the floor to you, and you can just share a little bit about who you are and what is it that happened to you that led you to where you are today.
Brilliant. Well, who I am, I'm Nattolie Chilton, and I'm a survivor thriver. And I'm a therapist, so I'm a trauma-informed body, mind, soul therapist. And my platform basically is break up with secrets. So I'm all about encouraging. First, it starts with me breaking my own secrets, coming out with the truth. It's been a long go, and it's almost like one of those jack-in-the-boxes with the silks that keep coming out. That's been how it's been. And so now I'm strong enough. I feel I got a degree in neurolinguistics back in 2003, hypnotherapy. Never really actively used that on others because I wasn't ready. And now I feel like I have resolved and I've healed. And now I'm in that stable position where I can extend, healthy support.
Yeah, people need it.
Mm.
So your shirt says Unsilenced. That's part of the I'm speaking out and I'm going to speak my truth, right?
Absolutely.
But here's the problem, right? So most people find they are too afraid to speak out for two reasons. One, they won't be believed. And because it's been beaten out of them, it's like, what's the point? So what led you, first of all, what led you to going through that yourself? And then we can work our way to here. I always like to find a little bit of background, So you were in a toxic relationship?
Yes. Yeah. And that started in childhood. So I believe that, most domestic violence people who end up in those conditions, it starts in the home typically, and then that becomes their normal, and we kind of water rises to the same level. So then we're uncomfortably comfortable. So that's what I did. My home environment was extremely toxic. A lot of mental unwellness, spiritual unwellness, verbal abuse, and just declaring, having those words declared over you that you are a this and you are a that, and then taking that to heart and saying, well, screw you. If that's, as a kid, that's what I said. I'm like, if that's who you say I am, that's what I will be. And that vow, wrapped in like hatred and bitterness, was like a bomb, like that when I left the house, I just kind of dove into disaster, basically. Left, right, and center, just like so I'll say the words like let's see. So secret keeping was huge in my family. And then the sexual abuse, I kept that secret. And then there was my brother, like sexually abused by uncle or uncles. And that was kept secret. So it was these secrets building a stronghold of hiding and lack of safety, like to be yourself, right?
Yeah.
So then I rejected me. I think we all know that pattern. It's like you're rejected, you internalize it, then you self-reject, then you reject others to protect yourself. So I would actively kind of act out to elicit rejection unknowingly, like unconsciously, and ended up with so at 19, like I just felt very male. I identified with my father because my mom wasn't a safe person. And so because she was the one who spoke in our house, I said, I'm never going to be like that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to talk. I'm never going to talk like that. And so here I am. Here I am speaking finally. But I had to like break the vows of we need to speak. And so, but in the child mind, that child makes those vows, right?
Yeah.
So it was a long journey. So getting breast implants, seeking love from men, becoming, basically selling sex because that's all I thought I was worth. Yeah, it's terrible. And but if I had that, like some parents are like, you're going to be an amazing doctor. You're going to be this or that. Well, I had, you're going to be that, or you look like that, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was, I've been thinking about the word narcissist, and narcissists are projectors.
Correct.
They're projecting themselves.
Yeah.
But in an undeveloped soul and mind, we don't know that. And children just absorb it. It's really hard to separate it. And then, after those traumas, then it's the process, right? So I don't know. Hopefully I'm making sense here, but it's the process of truth, like digging for the truth. And that's what I started doing, when I was in domestic violence at 21 with 2 babies and being gaslit by a 42-year-old, somebody twice my age, well experienced in that. And it was really difficult to find the light in that and to find my center. And within that, one of the things a statement that I really love is light shines best in darkness.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's the gift. It's like in the deepest darkness, that's where we can see light.
Yeah, makes sense.
If there's a little glimmer, we can see it. So, spirit, it was a spiritual awakening for me out of there. Like I think it always is. It's source, God, who I call God, Jesus. I wasn't a religious believer or anything like that. It was a spiritual spirit thing. And I was taught to begin declaring gratitude. So it was like, you can't feel good if you think bad things. I'd get a message like that. It'd be like, and then I'd be like, thank you for the trees. Thank you for the flowers. Thank you for the blah, blah, blah. Thank you for my breath. Thank you for anything. And that would lift me. And then more light would start to come in. And I'd get a little more strength. And then it was like the pulling back into the darkness. And then a few steps forward and up, right?
Yep.
But for me, it started to break away, I guess. Like things started to break up. The hold of the darkness, when I began, I started to go to domestic violence shelters. So I would take the babies and I would go. And that was like a physical break from him. And that was like when we put action, right? when we put action to the truth. I think what that did for me, I didn't know it at the time, but I was journaling. That was a huge part. I started writing and writing poetry and just writing out my feelings. And that was a way to dispel some of that. I was carrying all those emotions since childhood. And that was a release. And then it was also a record. So it was a record that I eventually started to go back and read and go, oh, like 8 years ago, I was dealing with that and I'm still dealing with that. Or the brain likes to, and especially with trauma, we get amnesia. And I think even just without trauma, we forget. We forget how things were. And as my mindset began to change, and I think like the truth, looking at the truth, and for me, without faith even, it was like, look at the evidence, because in the confusion and in all the twisting of words, okay, you're saying you love me, but I'm hurting, and you're not doing this, like count up the evidence, okay? And that's a way to begin to get clarity. It's like, okay, well, that's not a fact. And this is a fact. The fact is this. And I think it's time through, like just having a lack of worth. Having a lack of worth was huge. Having that instilled in me, that was a huge one to overcome. And I'm just trying to think where I'm going with this. Just realizing, connecting in with source and God, and realizing I do have that support. I was very isolated. I was scared of people. I had phobias of people because people were dangerous. So it was a lot to overcome, but I ended up in counseling school eventually after I broke from that marriage. Actually, I left my children with him, and it was a great big long yucky story that went on for a long time, but that's what I've written about in my book Unsilenced. It may become a different name, maybe Break Secrets. I just want to really nail that the core truth of it, and I think that being honest is our best defense. And that if anybody's, like, for people who are listening, I'd say tell somebody what you're going through, because we tend to just internalize it and freeze. And even call a prayer line. There are people available to hear. Say it out loud for yourself so you hear yourself. Make declarations.
Yeah.
And I think getting sober for me was a big one. And to get clear, we need to get sober.
True.
For me, and I think everybody needs to get sober, but
I don't know about you, but I find even if I drink a little bit of alcohol, it just doesn't agree with me at all. At all. It's like I prefer having a lucid mind. I'm able to react better. I'm able to think clearer, and I don't have to be sorry about anything. Okay, so I just wanted to go back a little bit. The self-worth, because you're saying about your body being the only thing that's actually worthy, and it's something I grappled with myself. I mean, I danced for many years, and it was for me a way to be on stage, to be seen. Like, you can't ignore me because I'm in the bright lights and I'm the only one there. And I'm getting all this attention and validation. And yes, it did work. But as soon as I stopped dancing, then who was I again? So even though it's a short-term fix, the long-term is still, you have to do that work. And I think a lot of people that are in toxic relationships, the underlying pain is lack of self-worth over everything else. It's like, if you have the worth, you wouldn't go looking for somebody like that to fill that void, to prove to you that you are lovable and wanted and stuff like that. So absolutely. And I think that is one of the lessons that they come to teach you, is how to find that in you instead of trying to outsource that to somebody else, But okay, so you said you went back to the shelters and you had the space. Is that what helped you to actually get I find having that mental gap just to get away from the toxicity gives you the space to start thinking clearer. It's almost like they get inside your head, even if they're not saying anything. The actual physical proximity can take away your ability to think clearly. Did you find that as well?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I mean, the father of my two eldest children, he was a really bent and very, very damaged, obviously, to do and say what he did. And I think that, I honestly think there was like a soul karma. There was like baggage that we came to resolve. And it was like that had a hold. I felt like that had a hold of me. And then I needed to stay for a certain period of time. And just, man, it was so long ago. I was, between 21 and 25 years old. And he actually died last January. And God told me that he would be gone before my book was released, before I released my story.
Oh.
The story which he's a part of. His name is Dark Destiny in the book, and Dee Dee. So I finally broke free when he struck me in the middle of the night. And it had reached this intensity where I just felt like instinctually, it was like, I need to leave or I'm going to die. Like, he's probably going to kill me. He could kill me, right? And I just, in my spirit, like even a soul death. So I left. And I left the babies with him because I had no place to go. I had no money. I'm 25. He was 47. And I guess, and I was so scared of him and I didn't know anything about the law. And I wandered and I traveled and I was homeless for a bit and just seeking God, and just super broken. So I ended up in martial arts intensively for a while. Then I ended up just more stuff. So by 28, actually 27, I ended up in neurolinguistic school after just more trauma, like just wandering around. I'm lucky, that I wasn't killed. Absolutely. So I ended up in school and I ended up in intensive therapy for like 4 years as I took my training. And it was a long time, Natasha, just bit by bit. And even after I completed my neurolinguistics degree in 2004, I felt in my heart, when I looked at that degree, I said, I didn't earn this. She gave this to me because she didn't want me at school anymore. Even after that entrenched worthlessness, I wasn't worth anything, which started at home. Absolutely, just by the treatment. I just fully believed. And even now, I have struggled to completely, like I'm there. I know I have worth, but sometimes it's like that dark side comes in and says, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nope. Like I am beloved. God has made direct connection with me supernaturally. He said he's with me. I know that. Like I needed that. I needed that kind of reassurance because I was so insecure and so afraid, and anxiety disorder is just a complete mess. So ultimately, bottom line, for people who are just a mess, know that you can completely recover, because I feel like I am like 95% after, being hammered, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Alcoholism, right? Yeah, it's not funny. It was terrible, but lessons have been learned, and we learn. We learn every step of the way.
You know, people think alcohol's bad, but if that was your crutch and there was no one else, then was it bad? You know, it's not meant to be a permanent thing. And I think we can't beat ourselves up over things that we did in order to survive. And that's the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned. And not to say I can't drink anyway. I mean, I've never been able to, but it's just, doesn't matter what you do. People are judgmental, but if they haven't walked in your shoes, how on earth are they supposed to? How can they judge you? How can they know? Yeah. So, okay. So I always am intrigued because people that do finally manage to leave somebody, I always wonder what their line is, because for some it might be he cheated. For somebody else, it's physical abuse. You know, you'll take it to a point up until what you're willing to do to yourself. When you start realizing this has gone beyond that abuse that I'm willing to impose on myself, then it's not okay anymore. And it's so sad that we have to wait for that to happen. But on the other hand, about the journaling. So I agree with you. If you can, when you have a record of something, even if it's to prove that you're not, you know, because they gaslight you in things that happen. They'll say, I never said that, or no, you're making that up, or, you know, and if you've got a record and you've written it down, you know you weren't mad at the time, you know that there was evidence, even if nobody reads it. It's so good to have something to write down, to be able to refer back to, and also to chart your growth. But now I see that also helped you towards, because you are a writer and you do like poetry, so it's almost like that kind of opened up a door for you as well to express yourself. Is that what happened?
It did. Yeah, I feel like the creative writing was just a joy and a release. It was like for years, especially in my 20s, I would literally run to paper. I'd start feeling too much, too intensely, and it was just like anything, like a serviette, any little scrap of paper, and I kept them all. Like I kept almost everything, and I put it in a box. And I carried that box around with me, and I actually unpacked it about 8 years ago for the first time, and I read everything.
Yeah.
Incredible, like the propheticness of the words that had come through. I'd been given directions. I couldn't see them. I couldn't clearly see it at that time, but those words were actually leading me out. They were directing me, and my unconscious mind totally got the message. And then it was like, you know, you're just writing about hope, writing about love, writing about, you know, wanting more light, wanting freedom. And it's that desire, you know, that leads us into, you know, as a person thinks in their heart, so they become. And so, yeah, I am living so much like love and freedom from depression, and like I am not that person anymore. So writing, yes, dancing, the creative things, offer that outlet. And then it also connects us into our identity. That is who I am. You know, that is who you are, a beautiful dancer, you know, these gifts that we have. And it's to use them for our enjoyment. And so that's what, and now, you know, now those writings will be to somebody else's benefit because they can see the unfurling, and it may lead them on a path of exit or higher ground.
Yes, and it will.
I don't know.
Because, no, it will, because people, when you're in it, you think there's no hope. When you're in it, you think there's no one that's been through, or no one will understand. And when you can just see that somebody else has been there, and there is hope, and there is life and light at the end of the tunnel, coming from the other side, it's so hard to envision because you don't know what that feels like. It's an unfamiliar feeling to have self-worth, which I've never had before. So yes, it absolutely would. There's no doubt. Tell me about your kids now. So they were little when you left them. When did you see them, or did you still keep contact with them, and how are they now?
Okay, well, with the first two, it was a real battle because he moved away and he actively didn't answer the phone. So through those years, I was so afraid to interact with him also. So it's like, but I was able to see them sporadically through the years until my son was 12 and my daughter was 14. And I ended up having another child in 98. So he was a godsend, a healing godsend, because I didn't have my other kids. And my heart was broken, and he just felt like I just poured so much love into him. My children, my daughter, she's a dancer. She's a creative. She's a tender heart. We do have connection now. We were out of touch from like 14 to 18. And my first son, I ended up connecting with a Zimbabwean vet, military vet, who ended up assaulting my 12-year-old. And we haven't had a relationship since he was 12 and he's almost 32. And so I'm holding he is a successful music producer. And, I've always had a musical heart. His father had songwriting, singing, dancing, poetry. So he's got, there's such a connection there on the spirit level. And I have faith that we will reconnect one day soon. And my youngest son actually lives in the same town as I. I'm so grateful. He's been here. He had a real rough go. I was homeless. I became homeless in his first week of life. It was he's had a really rocky time, but he is a overcomer, and he's working through. He let go of his alcohol about 100 and so days ago. Again, we're close. We tell each other the truth. So I am thankful my kids are compassionate, so they are willing. My two youngest and oldest and youngest. So I'm just thankful for their compassion. And so as I've been able to, and I just always encourage them, tell me everything. If you're angry with me, don't hold back. If you feel you want to bring anything up from any time, bring it up. Because the sooner you purge all those things, let's just deal with it. And so that's the kind of relationship we have.
No, that's really tough. I'm sorry to hear that. But, I always say a mother will never leave her children unless she thinks they'll be in a better place.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it, because I won't tell about my story right now, but I understand. I mean, that actually just brought tears to my eyes, because my daughter was groomed when she was 6 by my husband, who I trusted. And she ended up staying with her dad. He was a total sociopath. And I needed to gather myself, because I thought to myself, I am no use to her dad. So better to have a mom that's alive than to have no mom. And then, what values that if you'd stayed, you might not be sitting here in front of us today.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you and your daughter experienced that. It is horrendous. But we are having a spiritual experience in this human life. And I've heard you say that. And these are really high level lessons.
Oh, yes.
And for me, forgiveness, to stop hating the one that's holding your children and poisoning them against you. And it is super high level lessons. But within that, I say, seek legal counsel. If you are being alienated, if you're being domestically abused, charge them, prosecute them. And that's where I had the opportunity, and I lied because he asked me to. And then that lie cost me the biggest painful lesson of my life. So never protect them. Never.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's again back to the secrets. because that's what you're perpetuating from childhood, because the secrets is what keeps you in bondage, and it would keep the system running in a negative way.
That's
And
right.
and that's what keeps the trauma being repeated in the family over and over. And when you speak the truth and when you say it as it is, they can't hold it against you anymore. They can say, oh, well, you said that, or that happened. You say, yes, it happened. So you can't, there's no blackmailing. There's no, you've told the world already. There's nothing that can hold against you and say, well, I'm going to tell your boss that you did this. It doesn't matter, because your boss already knows. And there's less to remember. There's less to remember. You don't have to remember who you said what to. It just is. And the story doesn't change. It just stays the same, because it is the truth. And there's power in that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your book.
Well, I think I've told a whole lot about it already.
Okay. So is it available?
But-
Can they buy it now? Is it freely available?
I'm working with the editor right now to, so I'm culling the chapters because I can't include everything. And we're going to make it kind of like a teaching tool in a way. So telling the life story in an entertaining way, not super heavy, from a healed place, and giving tips, just in a not in a teachy preachy way, but just little, like for instance, Rosen method therapy for releasing trauma. I'd highly recommend that. Doing somatics to release trauma from your body and to stop your brain from spinning, so you can think straight. Those are things that I've learned in the last 20 years, I guess, but the somatics only 4 years ago. So let's see, my story is one of learning how to tell the truth. It is one of accepting myself and slowly growing in self-compassion, and identifying, breaking the cycle of domestic violence, choosing those kind of partners through getting, the sobriety journey, becoming sober, so that I have that solid, clear foundation so I can see and not have a clouded mind, because how can we choose correctly? So everything started getting better after I got sober in 2011. So, there's, pedophiles in the family. There is like kleptomania. There is many different themes. So it's really about all the virtues of becoming honest, learning how to have a good work ethic, how to be constant. So in certain practices, like telling the truth, like forgiving. So forgiving is a huge overriding thing for me, is like the full release of that, but it took a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think I still have some left regarding myself.
Well, you know what I think is that past time, we have a persecution imprint in us, that people that are attracting those kind of relationships are actually empathic people, and they tend to be healers. And the healers have been burnt at the stake, drowned, but, killed for all sorts of reasons, because they are able to connect and be in tune and see through the bull. And so they had to have their voice subdued, and that imprint is in your DNA, and you're fighting against lifetimes of trauma. And then it gets repeated over and over in the family. And I think this lifetime is where we need to actually stop that, stop the generational curse, stop the generational trauma, and say it ends with me now. Yeah, so it takes a hell of a lot of guts to speak out. But there's no point. You know what? I think it gets a point where it's actually more guts to stay in a relationship that's bad than actually to speak out. Because You have to speak your truth at some point, and there is no negotiating on it.
That's right. Yeah, there comes that point where you just have to make the hard decision, because it always is making that kind of break, change, transformation. But sooner is better than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the longer you wait, the longer you wait.
That's right.
So, just going back to your journaling again, I find a lot of people that are stuck in abusive relationships, they second guess themselves because of the gaslighting, and they actually lose their ability to trust their gut. And what you said about gathering evidence is it's actually key to understanding what you're dealing with, because they don't trust their ability to choose the right partner even. But if they just use their eyes and see what the person's doing, it has nothing to do with how you feel. You know, if somebody says, I'll be home at a certain time, and they don't come home, and then they've got all these dating apps on their phone, for example, that's what your eyes are telling you. That's nothing to do with trusting your gut, right? That's just evidence. And you've put it in such a nice way. You know, it's just gather evidence. Look at it like a court of law would do and say, this is what I see. This is not tallying up. And then you don't have to question. You can't argue with logic.
That's right. And so many of it, I think many women are not logical. You know, that tends to be more of a masculine trait. We're feelers. And the thing about like Dr. Caroline Leaf, she's a neurologist, neurolinguistic person. And basically when a woman gets upset, she's like spinning an emotion for about 24 hours after one upset in her biology. And so that's what they use. And they just keep setting off bombs to keep the person unbalanced. But okay, so gathering the evidence. I just wanted to say the other way that I used that one is that when I felt like I wasn't worth anything, I started to look at my friends. And I started to look at the quality of my friends, because, you know, most of us are quite generous and with the people around us, but not with ourselves. But I would look at that and I would say they wouldn't be my friend if I was garbage, because they're not garbage. So I would start to make a case for myself and my worth based on my friends and associations. Like, I wouldn't be working here, right, if I had no value. They think I have value. So when we don't feel that value, borrow the value. Like, borrow it from others who find us valuable until we assimilate that and make it our own, right?
No, I love that. I love that, because it's true. If you're looking for validation from people that are not going to validate you, you're never going to find it. You know, but if you've got friends around you that do validate you, then what do you need? You don't need them to tell you. You can just see it. Yeah. I was going to say something about that, but carry on. Yeah.
No, I'm feeling, I'm feeling really good about this, and I'm reminding myself to actually use, you know, that's why it's so important that we talk about it, and for people like listeners, that you talk deeply with your friends or learn how to start going a little deeper about things you've learned, and tips and tricks, and tricks to be more balanced, and a lot of times, you know, just speaking it out like it comes out of our mouth, and I'm hearing myself say it. And that's the other thing. We believe what we say more than anybody else. So if you are calling yourself bad things, start to maybe say out of your mouth, "You're doing great, Natalie. You're doing great, Natasha." Like, say it in the mirror. Just say it out of your mouth. And condition yourself to begin to hear positive things. And this is so good for me, because we all need to like reignite these habits, right?
You know how many times you say something, you're like, wow, that was amazing. Where did that come from? Why don't I listen to my own advice? But you're right, because words have got energy, and what we say about ourselves is worse than what we'll allow anybody else to say about us. even as a population, not necessarily, an empath or whatever. So yeah, and if they, they say our body holds a water and we are affected by the moon, then why would we not be affected by words? Because water holds the energy of the words. And when you're saying to yourself in the mirror, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm old, whatever those things are, you just running your body down for keeping you alive. It's like you would never say that to your children. Why would you say that to yourself, or your friends for that matter?
Amen. We wouldn't.
No, for sure.
We would say it about our friends, so we should be a friend, right?
Yeah.
We should be and we can't say that enough. Like, we should really be our own best friend. And you think, well, how cliche, but honestly, most people do not live as though they are their own best friend.
Well, it's the only one you've got.
That's the goal.
You came in this body, this is your friend, because it's only your soulmate. That is what it is. You're not going to have, not out there. Nobody will love you the way you need to be loved. Even if somebody loves you completely, they'll only love you the way they know how to. They can't give you what it is that you're needing. So yeah, and I always say about your growing up, your family's meant to grow you, not grow up with you. And so looking for support there isn't really where you're going to find it. And I think that's the hard part, is that people are always going back trying to find that validation, and they're not going to find it there. And then it's like, almost, where do you find it? But you don't find it out there. You find it in here, inside.
Yeah. And for me, like, I believe, like, I had the hand of God come through my ceiling in 2000. Like, I was tickled in my ribs by, like, a mega long finger.
Oh, wow.
And so for me, I needed the love from the outside to have that. Because I was just so lost. And yeah, we need the love. We need the love. And a lot of our families aren't pouring that in. We're getting toxicity instead of love. So love, the fabric of the universe is composed of love. It's completely supportive. And just to tap into that and be fed by the love that supports everything, from the trees to our lungs, the air.
Correct.
Yeah.
So your book will be released soon, and where to from now?
What am I? Sorry.
Oh, where to from here?
Where to from here? Okay, well, it's going to be a few months of just putting that book together. The editor put September 25th as the release date. I wanted July 31st, but as soon as possible. Right now, I'm about to kind of launch this shirt for the people who want to just, Dr. Emoto puts words on water and it transforms the crystals. So this helps, I think will help. It's a reminder to me to continue to speak the truth, continues to speak of things that are important. So t-shirts, to earn some money to support all this life, right? And therapy. So my Instagram, can I give my Instagram?
Absolutely.
I just changed it, the handle last night, to Nattolie Unsilenced.
Nice.
And and you can see my other little reels and what I'm aligned with. And the website is being put together right now, breakupwithsecrets.com. And for the time being, so writing the book, and then I'm doing hands-on therapy. So hypnotherapy while I give a massage. I'm just talking with beautiful people like you and just encouraging people to step forward and be free. So
lovely. Thank you. Do you have any message you'd like to share before we close?
Any message I'd like to share? Yeah, you're not, I was spoken to over the universe, and the voice said, I am with you. And with those words, all anxiety, panic attacks, completely gone for 3 days. So there's a force in this universe that's very powerful. And just ask for help. Help, 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 help. And keep your eyes open for the people, because God works through people, and the people will show up to help you. So just expect to see them. That's all.
Lovely. Love it. Natalie, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know it takes courage, but people need to learn that it's okay. We're not going to be burnt at the stake again. This is a time to end it. And even if you were, so what? You'll just keep coming back anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. Because wherever there's darkness, there'll be light shining. And that's what we're here to do, right? Shine the light. I love that you shared and that you put yourself out for this. And I look forward to hearing your story. Maybe we can chat again sometime.
I am so grateful to you, and just a huge hug. I can feel so much energy right now. I can just feel enormous love and energy, and just may you have so much success and love and joy and everything. Thank you. Thank you, Natasha. I'd love to message you sometime soon.
Awesome. Thank you.